tonight I am just doing my nightly routine and figured I would turn on the camera and have a little chat with you guys. What came to mind was talking a bit more about fleece. Kind of wanted to go through some pros or cons with using it. So when I first started, I used incontinent pads and then fleece throws on top. I found both of those at Walmart and it was pretty cheap, but then I did get into cage liners because I personally found cage liners already having the absorbent layer sewn in between made cleaning cages so much faster. I spent a lot of time with, fussing with folding the blankets properly, tucking stuff in, trying to make the little incontinent pads fit the cage, that kind of thing. Now, cage liners up front are more expensive than, say, purchasing a bag of bedding. But I really think if you buy good quality cage liners, they pay for themselves pretty quickly. I've had some cage liners, like the same ones, for about 3 or 4 years now. And they work exactly the same as when I first got them. They might not be as bright, but the quality of the stitching has never altered. Like, there's no holes or loose stitching. The middle layer still absorbs perfect. So I think they pay for themselves. It's just up front, you do have to put down a bit of money. For myself though, if I were to buy bedding, it would be so expensive to fill all of these cages. I just don't think I could do it. So I really feel like fleece definitely pays for itself. If you had just one cage, I could understand why you would just want to stick with bedding. But for myself, with such large cages, it's just so much easier. But one con for some people is you do need to use a washer and possibly a dryer. You can get away without using a dryer if you live somewhere that's a really dry heat outside. Here in Canada, I did try to dry my liners outside on the clothesline, but often it's really humid here, so I found they just would not dry. They just stayed pretty damp. But a lot of people have great success just hanging them outside. So you do need to have a washer. You can always take your stuff to a laundromat, and laundromats usually aren't that bad for money. I have taken stuff to the laundromat before to dry when I was getting my dryer fixed. One of the sensors went. And I didn't find that the price for drying all my liners was bad at all. I could dry. So I didn't find going to the laundromat was too expensive. Some people have communal laundry facilities if you live in an apartment. So that might be a hassle depending where you live. A lot of people have apartments that they rent and their utilities could be extra or they could be within their rent. So if your utilities are within your rent, then it doesn't really matter how much water or hydro you're using for it. So you just have to keep that in mind. I honestly don't notice a big difference at all with washing and drying my guinea pig's fleece at all. I use my same washer and dryer that I use for my own personal clothes. Knock on wood, I've never had anything be clogged or anything like that. I shake them off really well. And I find if there's any hair or teeny bits of hay, it's actually getting caught in the lint trap for the dryer. And it's just super easy to toss out. You could sweep your liners off, or you could even vacuum them off if you're worried. So fleece to get ready for the washer and dryer could be annoying. Some people might find that a bit tedious, so that just depends what you're into. Some people might like scooping bedding out rather than, having to shake out liners and wash and dry them. I do think it's a lot easier and quicker to clean a cage with fleece versus scooping out all the bedding, sweeping it up. And I also find fleece keeps the base of your cage clean. I've never had any urine stains on the bottom, where I know my mom, she used bedding for a while with her guinea pig cages. In the bottom of her chloroplast was always this orangish yellow color not long after, just from stains from the pee. So the other thing that could be a negative to fleece for some people is how much you do need to spot clean. You need to do it at least twice a day. So that's cleaning up all the poops and soiled hay off the top. I don't mind doing that at all. If you have bedding, you probably have to do it less often. You just would have to scoop out any soiled areas every once in a while to keep things dry. So if you have a lot of cages, you might find fleece is hard to stay on top of. So what I personally do is on cage cleaning nights, I get laundry started right away. Fill up the washing machine. I usually take all their beds first because they don't really need to be shaken out very well. And I get a load started right away. And as I'm going through the night cleaning everything, as soon as the washing machine's done, I put the next load in. I find just staying on top of it and making yourself come back downstairs to keep the laundry flowing is a great way to not be overwhelmed. I used to shake stuff outside, and I got into the bad habit of leaving things outside for a few days, and then I'd make myself go shake it all out. So having everything down here is so much easier, because what I like to do is immediately shake stuff out as I'm cleaning the cage, so that by the time I'm done all the cage cleanings, everything is shaken out and ready for the wash. So I just keep coming down every hour to switch laundry over, and before you know it, I am finished. So if you're using fleece, it's definitely a good idea to stay on top of it rather than letting it stack up and feel overwhelming. There's absolutely no problem if you just want to use bedding. Bedding is perfectly fine. I just know for my cages, there is absolutely no way I could afford it. For example, I use bedding for Seymour's litter box, and the bag of aspen shavings I get is $20. And I would probably use one bag, almost one bag probably, to fill up Lily's cage here. So could you imagine how many bags that would be for everybody? Now I know bedding really changes in price depending where you live. I am here in Canada, and I find it really hard to find cheap bedding, especially Carefresh, which is what I would use for the skinny pigs. I wouldn't want to use aspen shavings for them. So if you have a lot of cages, you might find fleece is hard to stay on top of. So what I personally do is on cage cleaning nights, I get laundry started right away. Fill up the washing machine. I usually take all their beds first because they don't really need to be shaken out very well. And I get a load started right away. And as I'm going through the night cleaning everything, as soon as the washing machine's done, I put the next load in. I find just staying on top of it and making yourself come back downstairs to keep the laundry flowing is a great way to not be overwhelmed. I used to shake stuff outside, and I got into the bad habit of leaving things outside for a few days, and then I'd make myself go shake it all out. So having everything down here is so much easier, because what I like to do is immediately shake stuff out as I'm cleaning the cage, so that by the time I'm done all the cage cleanings, everything is shaken out and ready for the wash. So I just keep coming down every hour to switch laundry over, and before you know it, I am finished. So if you're using fleece, it's definitely a good idea to stay on top of it rather than letting it stack up and feel overwhelming. There's absolutely no problem if you just want to use bedding. Bedding is perfectly fine. I just know for my cages, there is absolutely no way I could afford it. For example, I use bedding for Seymour's litter box, and the bag of aspen shavings I get is $20. And I would probably use one bag, almost one bag probably, to fill up Lily's cage here. So could you imagine how many bags that would be for everybody? Now I know bedding really changes in price depending where you live. I am here in Canada, and I find it really hard to find cheap bedding, especially Carefresh, which is what I would use for the skinny pigs. I wouldn't want to use Aspen shavings for them. Here, Willie. Good boy. Here, sweetheart. Right here. That's good. And I've mentioned before, but Willie's down on how much gas drops he needs. So he was on 1 mil twice a day, so that was 2 mils every day. So I was going through a bottle of the gas drops every 15 days, which seemed like quite a bit. So I slowly tried to start taking him down off the gas drops because I personally didn't notice he ever had gas. So I knocked it off to 0.5 twice a day. And now I just give him 0.5 once a day, and that's just in the morning when he's having his biggest meals, which is the most veggies in the morning. And he has been perfectly fine, which is great. So he does get Medicam and glucosamine still. That's for his arthritis, which is something we can't change and just need to keep him comfortable. But he does really well for getting around, and he's gotten very used to sleeping very comfortable in snuggle sacks. When he first came here, the only bed he really liked to use was a tent or like a little cube or hut type bed. So now he is totally used to going in cozy tunnels or snuggle sacks, so he gets nice and warm. So that's really positive. So Nammy and Raisin, since they've been moved over to this spot here, I see them out a lot more. They're still my most nervous set of pigs. They're doing really well though when you take them out of the cage. They've really relaxed in that sense. They always used to be nervous no matter what you were doing. So that's pretty positive. I'm okay with them being nervous in the cage, you know. Every guinea pig's different. I have my pets, my pigs, that are comfortable being pet in the cage. So if they don't want to be pet in the cage, it's all right. I still always try. Still trying to work on taming them, seeing if I could get them used to being pet in the cage, but not every piggy is into that, and you just kind of have to respect it. Sometimes it sucks, but that's what those two little turkeys are like. They love each other though. They just get along so well, so can't complain. So we're on to tidying up the trio's cage. I could not be happier with how the trio gets along. It really didn't take very long for Reese to be super comfortable with them. Their introductions were a little bit scary just at the beginning when they were most nervous with each other. I wasn't 100% sure within the first half hour of their intros how things were going to go, but I'd say about an hour to 2 hours in, I was pretty confident that they were going to be able to work it out. They all like to eat together, sleep together. Littlefoot and Reese play a lot, and Reese likes to get right close to Pecan when they're eating hay, and they can both lay down and eat right near each other. They all seem super comfortable, and Reese has learned from them to come up to the bars for little treats of hay. I do lots of hand feeding with the guinea pigs to help tame them and get them used to me, and Reese has just learned that she can come over to the bars because I have their bin right below their cage of hay. So often in the evening, if Littlefoot and Pecan are around, I would just grab the nicest pieces of hay and feed them through the bars. I always think that's really entertaining. And Reese, just from watching them, starts to come over too. And it's really gotten her used to my smell. So when I reach to pet her, I just let her sniff my hand. And she's done amazing for just getting super comfortable with myself and my husband. These two, like Pecan and Littlefoot, are just a great match for her because they're very sweet, calm piggies. definitely your pigs pick up on what the other pigs in the cage are like. So unfortunately for like Raisin and Nammy, since they're both kind of spazzy pigs, I can't really see them getting too calm towards me because they feed off of each other. Where Littlefoot and Pecan are super tame, so Reese has definitely picked up on that everything's okay and that she can be calm and affectionate towards my husband and I, and it's nothing scary. So that's positive and cool, because it's the same with Huckle and Apple. Huckle was always a bit more leery about being pet, and the more Apple was okay and starting to lay down and squish down when my husband and I would pet her, the more Huckle decided he wanted to be pet like that too. So I can 100% pet Huckle all the time, and he's actually starting to slowly sink down. I think he's going to be another pig to sink down completely and flatten out when I pet them. Because Apple does that, Pecan does that, and Huckle's starting to do that. Reese does it almost sometimes. Hi, sweetheart. See, it's a good idea. You just let them sniff your hand. And that's one way that they get used to you. I'll see if I can feed them some hay and show you what I was talking about. Okay, so what I do is set out these really grassy pieces of the Timothy hay. Come here, guys. Pecan, come here. And then I just hand feed them through the bars. There you go. And this is what I was doing with Littlefoot and Pecan all the time. And now Miss Reese comes over. Oh, Pecan tried to steal that from her. Here, sweetheart. That's yours. Who's gonna take that one? There you go, baby Reese. Good girl. Pecan, don't be pushing her out of the way. Here you go, girls. Come here, baby Reese. Come here. Good girl. So that is something that I like to do with all the pigs. I try this with Nanaimo and Raisin. They are not into taking hay out of my hand for some reason. But all the other pigs will. Here, sweetheart. No, you want something else? This is what I'm offering right now. There you go, sweetheart. So as you're passing your guinea pig something like hay, obviously it doesn't matter how much hay they eat, so that's usually what I use because you don't want to overfeed other things. But the way to their heart is through food, and also when you're handing them stuff, they're smelling you, so they're getting used to associating your smell and your voice with a positive thing, so positive reinforcement. So it has worked like absolute wonders with little Reese for trust. There you go. So after we're done cleaning, I give everybody cucumber. Well, except for Bun, he doesn't get cucumber. Let's give Bun a little Oxbow Simple Rewards treat, one of these little ones. They're the peppermint ones. And then I've got to go upstairs and get him more kale. I forgot to bring it downstairs. So he gets kale in the evening. Oh crap, dropped my knife. That's dangerous. Oh my goodness, you think you were never fed? Crazy little critters. Willie, hey buddy. There you go, girls. Here's the littles. Whoops. Oh dear. Come here, sweetheart. There's yours. So for Seymour, I divide up his pellets between morning and night because he really wolfs them down. And if he eats too many pellets in the morning, he doesn't want his veggies. Also, every single night I clean his water dish and give him fresh water. There's your fresh water. So all animals obviously, of course, love fresh, clean water. Rabbits really love when you change their water, keep it super clean and nice and cold.